There might be one or two. But we are pleased. Let me tell you the story of how this began. Back in November, I was told by my dear friend Nancy Lanning that this wonderful keynote speaker was going to speak at the convention, and her name is Becca Stevens. Prior to that, I had seen Becca preach at EYE, which is the Episcopal Youth event, and it moved me so much that the opportunity to see and hear and experience Becca was incredible. So the three of us toddled in, and we were treated to an experience beyond anything I've ever had before. We were treated to a story of redemption, of life, of giving beyond anything, like I said, I've ever heard before. So I said, oh my God, we have to bring these people to Trinity to share. And when they said that we were trying to open a Magdalene House here in Chicago, it was natural. So, without any further ado, this is Amity and Mary Lawrence from Chicago Magdalene House. Here to get over.
As Jody mentioned, my name is Amity Kruba. I am a priest in the Diocese of Chicago. I serve at Church of Our Savior in Lincoln Park. And I too had an experience actually of seeing the video that I hope, fingers crossed, I get to share with you this evening, that first connected me with the work of Magdalene House in Nashville and has inspired me to join the board and work with others to try to bring this ministry and program here to the Chicago area. And I want to also introduce Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Lawrence, and I came about this a little bit after Amity did. I had been taking my mother to get her hair cut and was eavesdropping on the woman next to me in the other chair, and she was explaining, she was one of the early board members, she was explaining about the huge trafficking problem in Chicago and how they had, their focus was going to be to focus on women who had been victims of sex trafficking and usually drug addiction. And I kept listening, and I didn't say anything that day. More? Loud. I didn't say anything that day, but I followed up with the hairdresser, and eventually I caught up to her because I knew in my heart that we can't solve this problem individually, but all of us can bring our talents together and move the needle and make a difference. So that's why I decided to volunteer.
So to begin with, I would now like to show a video and just a little bit of context. This is a video that was created by Magdalene House Nashville, also called Thistle Farms. The social enterprise aspect of the Nashville program is called Thistle Farms. So, and you have the chance to experience some of their products over on the table there. And so this is their story, and that's what's inspired us and the work that we seek to emulate and replicate.
It's not the speakers, that's not.
Prostitutes is infinitesimally small. None of us go out to the streets and meet a stranger. We go out to the streets and we meet a part of ourselves.
I walked the streets of Nashville for 26 years.
I've walked streets all over the United States.
In the beginning, I was with a pimp. He sold me a dream. At times, being with him was a lot better than being at home.
You know, I've been to women's clubs, escort services, and I know that from all the places I've never met a woman who wasn't in some kind of pain in order to do that.
Sexual abuse for the women who are residents of Magdalene on average happen between the ages of 7 and 11.
I had a lot of bad things happen to me as a child that are not supposed to happen to children.
I don't sleep well. The bed is is a bad spot for me. I was molested at an early age, starting with my grandfather coming to my bed.
Coming up as a child, I was constantly molested by my own uncle. I was threatened to keep quiet.
Early age, I experienced being taken into a closet by a relative.
I was accepted in foster homes before I was adopted. Each home I was molested. Never had a sense of what love really means.
My mom remarried when I was about 10, and that stepfather molested me when I was age 11. He told me it was my fault, that I was a bad girl. And then the vicious cycle started.
While I do not compare my story to any of the women who come through Magdalene, after my father died in the church, I experienced sexual abuse for a couple years.
I was raped when I was like 19. That was my first encounter with a man.
I ended up being the witness to my father's murder, right in front of me. It was really tough coming up.
I would consider it hell. I would just consider it hell.
I needed drugs to deal with the shame.
When I tried drugs for the first time, I felt like that was my escape.
I've been addicted ever since I was maybe 11 years old, and now I'm 57, so the vast majority of my life I've been addicted.
And I carried the horrible things that he did to me for years, and it led me to a horrible life of addiction, prostitution, abuse, trafficking, being on the streets.
And that is the worst feeling in the world to be told. Pull up on the street and have to walk down that street and get in a car with someone you don't know, and you know that you have to do it, and you can't come back without any money.
Then there came the beatings and stuff, and I have like a roadmap in my head that I didn't realize I had until after I had the breast cancer and lost all my hair and really got to see how bad the beatings really were. We didn't get to go to the doctor. We got our head put under cold water until the bleeding stopped, and then we were put back out.
I don't know at what point I hit bottom. It seemed like every day was a bottom day.
I was dead inside. I was spiritually dead, mentally destroyed. I was broken. And then God did for me what I couldn't do for myself. And I got arrested that day. And jail was fine with me. It really was, because that was a safe spot for me. No one was going to rape me. I didn't have to get out and get any money. Somehow I just knew that I had to go to Magdalene. I went to jail, and the judge made me go to treatment. What was 28 days going to do for me after being out there for 28 years? I mean, I was beat down, I was tired. So I went to the treatment center, and this girl came in, and she was telling me about the Magdalene program. They called me to court, and that day Magdalene House was there, and they said, "We're picking her up today," and I was just like, it's real. And that's really where my healing journey began.
The way that the Magdalene community is set up, that we love everybody, and that we judge no one, and we love unconditional.
Love is the most powerful force for social change in the world.
That's what made me have the freedom to start digging deep and healing from some of the scars.
I was always burning, and since coming to Magdalene, I have not felt the need to just run.
When I was in Magdalene, therapy meant reliving some of the horrible stuff that I had pushed down. But I think every time I talk about it, every time I shed tears about it, that I heal a little more.
And it has been painful, but the most beautiful experience of my life.
I think any time that we are freed up enough to tell our story, it's healing and empowering.
The next year I started to grow and bloom, and I'm at Thistle Farms, and turns out I'm a little bit smart, which everyone always told me I was stupid my whole life. Sent me to Belmont for computer school. You can go to school on Fridays and still get paid. And so I'm on the sales team now, and doing been great. I had my own place, my very first own place. It's cute. You know, people really do want to see you do good, and it's something that I never knew. I never knew that any of this was possible. I never knew that anybody cared. If the world against me. And it's so not that way. I wish that more places could open up like Magdalene. I know there's hope because I'm looking at me, you know, junkie addict like me, and I know there's hope.
Magdalene is not really a treatment program. It's a community of women that are just like me. We can sympathize and empathize. It just gave me hope. I know I'm a survivor.
I do what I can. I speak out injustices. I sell a lip balm, a candle. Magdalene has saved my life. I love speaking out for women. I feel like that's my mission now. It gives me hope in everything that I've gone through to know that it wasn't for nothing. Every time I look into the face of women in the street, I can feel their pain because it's also my pain. But I also know the feeling of hope. And I pray one day that they will too.
I definitely want to be a rock, and I definitely want to let ladies know that it's okay to speak up. You know, if you abused, sexual abuse, mentally abused, physically abused, it's okay to speak up. I held it in for so long, but finally, you know, I'm letting it out, and I'm not ashamed.
I think there's some things that, you know, you won't forget, but you can forgive and you can move on from them.
I love the fact that I'm not a victim anymore. I was so stuck in that victim role for so long. I had owned it, and that's why I love to say I'm a survivor now.
I just like for the women to know that we can all do this, and we can all do this together.
I'm living proof of it. Love heals.
I kind of relate myself to when the people in the Bible were walking in the wilderness and they was walking in circles for 40 years, or for 26 years. I never could get out of a 10-block radius. But Magdalene and the sisters of Magdalene held on to me so closely that I made it through it. And another thing that has been brought to my attention that I find really amazing, my father was a farmer, the farmer of crops. Now I am a farmer of people. I'm a thistle farmer. So I think that's really neat. Yay.
There's a passage from Isaiah that says, "Everyone who thirsts, come to the water." And that was written while people were still in exile. This can be a place where people who thirst can come, and they find women who are healing, and they go back out, and for a little while, their thirst is sated.
Take the tears in the careless words. Take the fear.
So we start our conversation this evening together in a way that the women in Magdalene House in Nashville start their meetings. And we light this candle for each woman still trying to find her way home.
So when we were in Nashville, they do run training workshops. So once a month, you can go down to the Thistle Stop Cafe, and they teach you, they give you the business plan, and they really help you. They helped us get started. We're not connected to them legally, but they're been a great source of support. And so during the training workshop, we did the circle, and in the beginning they light the candle, and then they also do the Serenity Prayer. And I thought it might be worthwhile to say that now, if you would say it with me. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. One of the other things that they follow is the 24 spiritual principles, and I think Jody has spoken to you about this in the past. So if possible, maybe just go around the room and each person say one, and then we can kind of get a gist of what they are. So Jody, would you start?
Sure. Come together. Who's next? It's on this.
Yeah, if anybody needs them, I have extra copies.
Sure. Proclaim original grace. Rivalry creator.
Find your place in the circle.
Think of the stranger as God.
Come on, Kat.
Make a small change and see the big difference. Let God sort it out.
Stand on your ground and believe you are not lost.
Forgive and feel free.
Unite your sexuality and spirituality. Show hospitality to all. Laugh at yourself. Consider the thistle.
Listen to a new idea.
Bruise gracefully.
Remember your men in the finish.
Walk behind.
Live in gratitude. Love without judgment.
Stay on point. Pray for courage.
Find your way home.
Leave thankfully.
Thank you. How many people are familiar with human trafficking and issues that we're facing? Most people?
And I think some people back there are having some trouble hearing, so I think
Yeah.
unfortunately the microphone was giving some feedback that wasn't useful. The mic effect is just not working right.
No, okay,
Yeah,
so
so
we
you're
can
just
talk
gonna
about
have
it. I'm the youngest of 5.
So let's just agree, maybe if you can't hear well, just put your hand up so they know, and just sort
Yeah,
of
we
wait.
can, thank you. We can definitely talk louder. So we thought it would be good to start with the definition of what is commercial sex exploitation and sex trafficking. So, the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000 defines sex trafficking as the recruitment, harboring, transportation, providing, or obtaining of a person for a commercial sex act.
And I would just like to add that before I first started really learning a lot more about the realities of sex trafficking, I had a different understanding of what it meant. You know, I thought that trafficking, I thought of it more as maybe bringing women and girls from another country to the United States, or like transportation almost of people. But in fact, that's not the case. So that was a real eye-opener and realization for me, and just my own understanding of these terms. And then also understanding what is a commercial sex act.
And you can read it up here, I won't read it out loud, but one of the things that's interesting is they say pornography, which sometimes you wouldn't think would necessarily fall under that category. And what we've learned is that that's often the stepping stone to prostitution. One thing I was going to throw out is there's an app that you could download to your phone called Traffic Cam. And what it is anytime you go and stay in a hotel room, they're going to tell you to stand in certain places, and you're going to take a picture of that hotel room. And they're building this huge database because a lot of times the conventions and the sporting industry are what bring in the demand for prostitutes. And they're put in these hotel rooms, and that's where they're sold. So by being able to identify the pictures online with the hotel, it's the Marriott in Naperville, it's the Ramada downtown, they're able to kind of link these perpetrators with their location. So it's not connected to us at all, but I put it on my phone and I'm going to be traveling next week and whatever I can do in that. So it's Traffic Cam, and it's in the App Store, and I'm sure it's in the Android store as well.
So again, the video that we shared with you is based on the work, of course, happening in Nashville, and many of us have been inspired by that work, and we seek to create a similar community here in Chicago with a similar name, Magdalene House Chicago. Not a lot of what we're planning on doing is original, and I think that's great because they are doing excellent work in Nashville. But we are here in Chicagoland. And there are many things that are similar and some things that are different between Chicagoland and Nashville. But as you may have learned from the video, and what I was shocked to learn, was that most of the women who come to Magdalene House Nashville have been raped or molested at a very young age. That this is not something, a lifestyle that they are choosing to pursue. And oftentimes these girls are fleeing abuse within their home, and that's what basically, you know, drives them into the arms of often men who exploit them. Also, many of the women served by Magdalene House Nashville, out of that experience of abuse and pain, start self-medicating with alcohol or with other drugs. But it tends to be the case that the abuse happens first and then the addiction follows. So it's not so much that women are on the streets and being prostituted or trafficked because of their addiction, but that tends to follow. And as one of the women shared, you know, that was her only escape. And so that, again, challenged some of my assumptions or stereotypes of just the life experience and lifestyle of the women. And again, I was shocked to discover that every single woman that Magdalene House Nashville serves has reported at least one experience of rape. Of course, Chicagoland is a larger city, a larger market in all senses than Nashville, and so yes, of course, there is a problem not only in our city, but also in our suburbs. You know, if you think about one of the keys of success of Chicago has been that it's been traditionally at the crossroads of America, and so that's had a positive impact on industry and, you know, transportation, but it also means that our area is at a crossroads of trafficking women and girls as well. So on the interstates, in and out of the airports, I-80, which cuts across, you know, the entire country, is supposedly one of the busiest routes for transportation of women. And also, you know, I have come into this work with a lot of assumptions and assuming that it's a reality mostly just in urban areas, but trafficking happens in all kinds of neighborhoods and in all kinds of situations. So wherever we go, in fact, this is a reality in all of our communities. So we are still in the pretty early stages of creating Magdalene House Chicago, and we have kind of 3 large areas of work ahead of us. And I want to just say a few words about each. The first is that we're in the midst of fundraising. Our goal is to procure a house, but before that, you know, we need some resources to do that. We're working on our 501c3 application. And our estimated budget, you can see there, includes both an acquisition of a property, renovation, and then operation for 3 years. So, so that's what that $2 million, you know, we believe will get us beginning and well ahead on the road of serving women coming out of prostitution.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
Because we didn't mention that our intent is to have 10 women.
Yes. I was just going to ask how many Yeah. people would be able to.
Yeah.
And I'll say a little bit more about the home and house in just a moment, but we are also very, very excited to have a $100,000 matching grant. It's fantastic. So, but the house or the home is certainly the key point of all of this. And one of the things that I was really struck by when I went down to Nashville for that education day was that Magdalene House Nashville did not feel like many other transitional housing programs or homeless shelters that I've volunteered at or just been a part of at different points in my life. Oftentimes those have felt very institutional, with maybe someone sitting at a front desk behind some glass, buzzing people in. Whereas Magdalene House Nashville is a home. It is a large home, and there, in fact, they built it from the ground up. It's a big house, but it's a home, and each woman is given the key to the front door of her home when she enrolls, begins in the program. And Magdalene House Nashville doesn't feel as institutional, as I mentioned. It also doesn't feel so much like a program, like one of the women in the video mentioned. It truly did feel like a community of equals supporting one another. And what they've done is taken a lot of the wisdom and practices from the monastic tradition and incorporate that into the model. And so for me and all of us, we're really struck by just the difference that those small yet significant changes really made us feel so different. It really felt like a home, not, you know, a housing program, and a community. And a community of mutual accountability. Women who were further along in the 2-year program were mentoring women who had just entered. They, you know, keep each other accountable, you know, in all sorts of ways. And of course, there's, you know, just like in any community, there's chores to be done in the kitchen that have to be shared, you know, bathroom, cleaning schedules to be sorted out, all of those things, but very much like a home. We're still researching, you know, lots of housing options as to specifically where, you know, will we purchase a 3-flat and renovate? Will we have a home donated to us? In case you were wondering, we are open to having a house donated. Just putting it out there. You know, building from scratch. You know, a lot of these things are still, you know, to be discovered. But we also have a sense that we need to, you know, be in a location that's accessible to lots of resources as well. And I guess maybe this is a good time also to say the structure of Magdalene House is that, you know, housing is provided, a small monthly stipend is provided. One thing that they discovered in Nashville was that many halfway houses that women were being released from prison into charge rent, which is fine, except for these women, they know one way to make money. And that's sending them right back out into the street, being vulnerable, and the whole thing starts up again. So, you know, radical grace, radical hospitality being practiced here. So a home is, you know, made available, as well as, you know, some money in your pocket to, you know, we all need toiletries and such. But also access to a lot of services. Health services, dental, legal services, all sorts of supportive services that Magdalene House itself does not deliver, but partners with the experts, the professionals in the community, and also makes use of food stamps and other, you know, government support services as well. So I think it's a really smart model.
So is there an assessment done when someone joins the program about what types of services they need? And I would assume, I sort of know myself, that that would include mental health services, because there has to be a huge need for counseling and having them get through the abuse that they've.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And at least in Nashville, there were some group sessions that occurred in the living room at the house, but then there was also one-on-one services, you know, again, mental, you know, medical, all of that, that women were, you know, paired up with in the community, but absolutely. And what's interesting too, in Nashville, they talk about, you know, connecting with all sorts of community leaders, you know, and I think it's Shauna who was in the video. I've had the opportunity, the honor to meet in person. She talked about her place, and it's cute, but I know she also has a car, you know, so even like eventually like connecting with car dealerships and, you know, working out deals and all that sort of thing. So it really, if you think about every aspect of your life, if you have no resources coming off the street, there's so much, and the opportunity there is that so many people can gather around and support these women. Becca Stevens, who is the Episcopal priest who really led the effort to found Magdalene House in Nashville, she says it took a community to break these women, and it's going to take a community to heal these women. So, you know, massage therapists, or, you know, car dealers, or whomever, you know, all sorts of skills and support. Yeah. Did you have a follow-up, or is that okay? Great. And please, others, you know, raise your hand. And this is actually a perfect segue into partnerships. So in addition to fundraising efforts and just talking with groups like yours, we're also connecting with other partners who are somehow engaged in this work. So whether it's law enforcement or other organizations that are maybe, doing outreach to women who are on the streets, working with teenage girls, working with men, all sorts. This sex trafficking is a huge, huge issue with lots and lots of pieces. We understand that offering housing and home and healing is the one slice that we are seeking to take on. But there's a lot more. It's been the experience in Nashville that law enforcement adores Magdalene House Nashville because it frankly makes law enforcement's job much easier. And now there's a place that when women are either coming out of jail or prison or just picked up, there's a place that police can take these women, and there's relationships and networks. So lots and lots of partnerships and relationships, including with you. Am I missing anything? Yeah.
Okay, so one of the questions people normally ask is how successful is the Nashville program? And what their history shows is an 85 to 87% success rate. So the women that are able to complete 2 years of the program, 13% actually slip back into prostitution, but the rest are able to maintain that lifestyle.
So it is wonderful to be here with you this evening, and frankly, I am thrilled at how many folks have come out this evening. This is really wonderful. And there are many ways to connect with us, to join with us. I'll start sending around the clipboard, the sign-in. If you're interested in being on our email list or coming to a board meeting, maybe you are interested in really digging deep into this work and joining us. That's one way. Of course, to donations, you can make donations online. Yes.
Oh, really? Would you like a donation?
I would love a donation, Jody.
From Trinity Outreach, we have allocated funds for Magdalene House.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We believe strongly, and what part of the Outreach Commission, what part of our mission for the next 12 months will be to support Magdalene House through this donation, through other ways of helping. Host a shower. Of course, we will pray.
Yes.
We are a church, and we can do that very, very well. So, thank you on behalf of Trinity for giving us the opportunity to give and to share.
You didn't think it'd be that easy, did you?
But they will take other donations too.
Yes, yeah, thank you. And the host a shower, that idea is when we have a house and each woman coming in receives, a kind of a welcome, kit, I guess, bedding and toiletries and towels and all of that sort of thing. So that's what a shower looks like. And we'll have more information about that as things progress. At this point, I'd love for any questions that you might have that you've been holding on to. Feel free, and thank you.
What's the minimum age for someone to be accepted into the program?
Yes, thank you. That's an excellent question about a minimum age. So we will work with women ages 18 and older. Working with minors is a very tricky thing, yeah. And it, in some ways, breaks my heart, but it's what we can do. So there is, in fact, actually in Oak Park, a Salvation Army house for minors, and that does feel very different than the model we described. Yeah. Yes.
How will you determine who qualifies?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. So referrals will happen in a variety of ways. One pathway is working with the legal system, and sometimes judges will make it a part of a woman's sentence. not a lawyer, so I don't know all the terminology, but sometimes we will have those kinds of referrals from women who are in prison, and we can start the relationship while she is serving whatever sentence she has, and then then she has a home when she gets out. And then there are also, as I mentioned, other groups in the area that work doing outreach directly to women who are still on the streets, and so we would work with them as well. I can't remember what the wait list is for Nashville. Do you remember? Yeah, it was like hundreds of names long. I mean, just ridiculous. Yeah, I think it was like 300 plus names long. So in that regard, I have no concerns. Yeah, but there are multiple ways that women will find their way home to us. Yeah.
And if you think about the prison, when they come out, they're clean because they have had some type of drug rehabilitation, so they might be in a better place to enter a program. Tom Dart is really an advocate for this, so I would imagine we might have some referrals of candidates that would be successful in the program, because you don't want to pull down the other women that are struggling too.
And that is a requirement to enter into Magdalene House is sobriety. Sobriety is a requirement. Yeah.
Again, for how long? How long do they make a commitment to say, blah, blah, blah? So is it a 2-year?
It's a 2-year program, yeah. Yes.
So they have a business then? Is Thistle that they were talking about? So that while they're there for the 2 years, are they actually working in some kind of a business that's a part of the program?
That's a really good question. So what they realized was once they had these women initially and they went through the program and they were healed, they had no way to earn money. And a lot of times they'd never had a stable job. So just knowing that they had to be there at 8 and had to stay till 5, those were skills that we take for granted, but they had to teach these women. And so Becca Stevens said, we can't just turn them back out in 2 years. We need to have a social enterprise where they can earn money and gain these skills. And that's why when you're watching the video that so many of the women had titles.
Right.
Because they're teaching them the career steps in order to be successful. And a lot of them do stay and work at the cafe. There's now a paper making, stationery part of it. If you've been to their website, you've probably seen the different things. They have candles, they have tea, lotions,
oils. Yeah.
And so it's our intent also to have a social enterprise. We probably won't match exactly what they're doing because we don't want to compete, but maybe something along the farming, thistle theme.
You would do a little commercial?
I'm going to do a commercial break.
Yeah.
Commercial break. PBS had a special, or had a presentation on Thistle Farms. And one of the products that they highlighted was the Thistle Farms bug repellent. Now, this is made with geranium oil from Rwanda, helping to sustain the Rwandans and in their efforts to recover. So it's sustainability also. Now, they've just reformulated this. There's
new and improved.
New and improved. I used this when I was in Hawaii. I didn't get any bugs.
When I was in Philadelphia at EYE in 2014, where we were at, this stuff worked great there.
Yeah, geranium, citronella. This was like I said, promoted by PBS. There's other products.
Can I say one thing about the bug spray too, though? Because like my nieces won't put anything on their kids that isn't organic, and that met their criteria. So feel free.
Everything that's here you can sample. There's excellence oil on your tables, which is a healing oil based on a recipe in the Bible. Excellent, as a matter of fact.
Great product.
So we would, Magdalene House Chicago, eventually we would also create our own social enterprise, but as Mary said, not to compete. So that feels very much on the distant horizon, one step at a time, but we'll get there for the very same reasons that Nashville discovered. Yeah.
And if you wanted, sorry, before you jump away, if you wanted to order those products, it's thistlefarms.org. So you would be helping the women in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly, where Magdalene House Chicago lies. Have you got a place in mind, et cetera, et cetera?
We we are still very much in the beginning phase, and we don't have a specific place in mind. It's going to be so exciting when we do, and then even more exciting when we're welcoming our first women. But we really are in the very beginning phases, having initial conversations. Exactly. And it's, so we're really at the beginning, which is, you're on the ground floor. It's an exciting time.
And there's also the zoning, that you can't have so many women together. So there's certain towns that are more receptive, like Forest Park is pretty positive about that. There's a lot of public transportation, there's a courthouse there, because you have to adjudicate their records, but the person who's been arrested in the past, now it's kind of turning that they're actually the victim and that they're arresting the Johns. So that's a possibility, but...
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I mean, is it in the same areas as Forest Park?
Yeah. So we're researching a number of options, so that's still in, again, the early stages,
My question was, in terms of almost 2 years, what occurs in terms of their therapy? What does that program look like?
So I am a priest and not a social worker. I can't speak specifically to that, but like Nashville, we will have a social worker, licensed social worker on staff, and primarily though, so there is some group sessions that happen at the house, but mostly it's resourcing out individual, therapeutic support,
So it'll all be on a case-by-case basis.
Yes, with the social enterprise, the job training. You've had your hand up a few times.
When did Nashville open? When was? How long has it been in existence?
10 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been there for 10 years.
Yeah.
10 years, so you've had some turnover, and you kind of see the success rate that way.
Absolutely. And they have this really cool chart that's somewhere else in my computer of basically how this model saves the taxpayer money.
Oh,
in
sure.
Jail, prison, law enforcement, all of that.
Absolutely.
This is in fact, it's really helpful to the whole community in many ways. Yeah. Yes.
Are there other communities that are exploring this?
Yes, there are. I'm not quite sure, exactly how the Holy Spirit's been working. It seems like all of a sudden, a number of Episcopal communities and other communities across the country are seeking to start Magdalene houses of their own. So there's a network, we're all kind of looking to Nashville as the model. There's Magdalene St. Louis that Christ Episcopal Cathedral has just started. Wheaton House in New Orleans. There's a house in Charleston, South Carolina, Detroit. And I think maybe just in general too, in the wider culture, our language and awareness of sex trafficking, perhaps in the last few years, has just really increased, and so now the response, is following. So, yeah.
And locally, I think Moody Bible Institute just opened their own program. So that's awesome.
Yes, so if you have 10 women who are there, I'm assuming since when you open up here in Chicago, 10 women will come in right away, correct? And then that they will give the 2 years commitment.
The way that it's happened in Nashville is it's been a little bit staggered. So there's almost been like classes, groups, cohorts, I guess. And again, so the women who are further along in their healing and in the program then can mentor the women, coming in. And I think that happens rather organically. So St. Louis has opened, they received their first woman back in, I think it was November. And we're actually planning a visit down there next month because they're much newer. So we can learn certain things from Nashville and we can learn different things from St. Louis. But not all of their women have, come and started at the same time. So I think that happens rather organically. Yeah.
Has the 13% who non-violent prostitution have tried to come back into the program?
I think some have reoccurred and eventually have become successful. That would
believe I heard somewhere that in Magdalene House, Nashville, if a woman who has been a part of the program in the past, then, does return, knocks on the door, so to speak, she's absolutely welcome back. It's going to be always have a place. Unfortunately, not every story is a success, though, as well. And I know that when the women from Nashville were here for the diocesan convention back in the fall, a number of them were rather rattled because one of their housemates had actually, returned to the streets and she was murdered. So, yeah. So, I mean, this, that's reality as well. So, yeah. But overwhelmingly, what I think maybe a part of why I personally am so inspired is that each woman has a story of resurrection, a powerful story of resurrection, and it's just amazing to me that over and over again, these stories of transformation, but I call it resurrection, and the joy and gratitude that to a woman they express, and I truly, it's my sense that it's very honest, it's not just a show. At least that's my sense when I watched that video, and
We've met a number of them in person.
Yeah.
And they've been reunited with their children, and they've lost legal custody. And Annika was in the video, and she was a victim. She said a foster, with cute smile, foster care. And what happened to her was she was in gym class, and the gym teacher said, if anything like this happens to you, this is wrong. And so she got up her courage, and she went to the gym teacher and said, this is happening at home. And so the teacher contacted the foster mom, and when she got home, she got in trouble. So she ran away, and then she was picked up within 48 hours, and she had a whole cycle of, he was her boyfriend, and he was going to take care of her, and he didn't. So to see her in real life when she was up in Chicago was amazing, because you just can't imagine what they've been through, and then to have somebody give them a chance, they're so grateful.
And she was also the one who said to us, there's a small group of us from the Magdalene House Chicago board, we were meeting with them, and she was like, just get a house, just do it. Just have someone donate a house to you. I'm like, all right, I'll try. but either way, she's prodding us along, and we are on our way. So yeah, it does.
Do you have a timeline for when you're sort of seeking to get that $2 million, when you're looking at that?
Yeah, so the matching grant for $100,000 is next spring, which I know that we can do, and more. And then for opening the house in 2018 is our goal. We're trying to be, more on the cautious, realistic side. And I'm also open to the possibility that it would happen sooner than that, and that, then Annika will,
she'll be happy too.
Yeah, she'll be happy too. Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're wise stewards of your money, and that we don't rush into something that we can't sustain. So we're reaching out to all different churches, and we're hoping to get a lot of different support from a lot of different organizations.
I think the thing with mental health services too is the state of our state, which is horrible. And I'm on the board of a social service agency, and a lot of what we do is mental health services. There have been a number of providers in Chicago who have just shut their door. And right now, I will tell you that the state does not, a lot of it is state funded. The state does not have to pay unless there's a budget, which there's not, or unless it's a court-ordered payment. I mean, they owe the agency that I'm on board of, they owe the agency millions. And unless you've got a good, endowment, agencies can't afford that. So I think that's something you need to look at when you look at where you're putting this home, where you want to get services from. And the other thing too with like cars, I'm involved with another organization, and they allow people to donate cars. So you may not have to deal with a car dealer. You might find a way to allow donors to say, I've got a car that's 5 years old, and instead of turning it in and getting X amount for it,
So there's lots of possibility, and I do want to be clear that this evening, tonight, this is just the beginning of the conversation, and we hope to be, in relationship with you, for years to come, and look forward to when we do have a house and when we do have women, that you would be part of their community of healing as well. So I think that's about it.
Thank you.
Thank you.